Hello and welcome to Beyond the Exposition, the podcast for the website of the very same name. We're the podcast who decided the only way we could explain our absence was by rebranding a break between episodes as a break between series. That being the case, welcome to Series 2. It also happens to be our 1-year anniversary episode, and since we've been around for a year, our regular listeners would know that this is the bit where I would introduce my co-host Nick, and he interrupts me, we argue and we go off on anecdotal tangents. But firstly, I'd like to take this moment to thank Nick, a man who's been with me here from the very beginning. He is a man who I have great respect for. But no more time for, I got rid of him by sending him to Asia. And here with me for the very first time, I would like to introduce Miss Deirdre Sullivan from the website Gun Street Girls.
Hi, I'm honoured. I don't do this.
Passion.
Okay,
You've got Nick's position now.
oh no.
Become Nick.
My bones are jumping from my skin.
All you have to do is say like E and A and Arthouse, and you have to have 3 levels of how you judge things.
Yeah.
Masterpiece, nothing special, and awful. Yeah, usually when it goes to that level of dreadful, he swears in Italian.
Oh, okay.
We've had a lot of new listeners over the past few months, year.
Really?
Yeah, and there's one I'd especially like to thank. My friend was listening to the show on her iPod, and she went into a dressing room, and someone stole her iPod while it was playing.
Well, she was in the dressing room.
Mm-hmm.
That's horrible.
Although our new listener is a thief, I don't have anything against you. I'd like to welcome you by announcing that you're the winner of a very special competition. To receive this prize, all you need to do is email us at questions.bte@gmail.com. Someone else will get back to you. The prize is a special trip away. I'm connected, so I'm going to make sure your holiday away from society is going to be at least a year. First up on today's show, we've got District 9 by
Neill Blomkamp. Blomkamp?
Nick can't even speak English and he gets it in one go.
Oh, wow.
What happens when a man who's only made one film ever is given $30 million by his buddy Peter Jackson to make anything he wants as a favour? Do you know what he makes?
Does it have unicorns in it?
No, he makes the exact same film he made before, just a bit longer. And then we have Up by, we don't know, it's a Pixar film, so it's about an old man who kidnaps a boy
And takes him far, far away where they can be together happily.
And that's the lineup for today's show. This is the end of the intro, and that's usually when Nick and I argue over something said. He isn't here, so Deirdre, you can say whatever you want.
Where did I park my Vespa?
He doesn't have a Vespa.
Ugh.
That's
what
extremely
kind of
racist.
Italian is he?
First up on Beyond the Exposition is, of course, District 9 by a man we can't pronounce.
Neill.
Which isn't out of the ordinary on the show. We should just stop covering films with limited release.
Arthouse films.
It's actually our first African film we've ever had.
Really?
We were going to do Exala, a film Nick picked, but I watched it and it was dreadful. It was hard to stomach. This film appeals to many different people, but if you play computer games, it brings something home about all those aliens you go off shooting and what happens when those aliens, they follow you home and they go to your planet, and instead of invading, they do nothing. They just sit there, and somehow this explains the apartheid.
It's an allegory.
What's an allegory? He was going to be president of America.
Yeah, he was, but he's also a story that like tells another story that's got like a subtext. Like, you know, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe with like Aslan and stuff. That's an allegory for Christianity.
Was it?
Yeah, because like he sacrifices himself to save Narnia. So
do you think the Irish band Aslan will sacrifice themselves to bring good music back?
I can only hope so.
The second they do it, they'll pretty much bring good music back.
Maybe.
It's not exactly what you're thinking in that black versus white in South Africa. Well, the white versus black.
And black versus other black as well.
Exactly, because it's the new situation that's down there at the moment. You're getting countries like Zimbabwe, other neighbouring ones, I can't name them, taking our jobs.
And our women.
No,
Oh, they took our jobs!
Hey!
Durr.
It's actually a reference Nick would never get, because he doesn't watch cartoons, which is why I think he'd have a real problem watching Up. Eventually the film starts following Vickers
Vandermeer.
Played by Sharlto Copley, a man who hasn't been in much before.
He acquits himself very well.
Yes, he's really annoying though. It's really hard to love him until the end.
Yeah. He's detestable at the beginning. He's really kind of slimy and, you know, the company man who kind of only wants to, like, claw his way up to the top.
He can't help it. The boss of the company is his father-in-law.
Trying to sleep his way to the top. Well, he's not really, because he does love his wife, because at the end of the film, I don't want to, like, spoiler alert, he, like, is still making gestures of love towards her.
You have her in the film in a way, because that indicates that both him and his wife have survived. Because during the middle of the film, it really does look like Vicus is on the way out.
Yeah, well, it could be from beyond the grave.
This is a serious film. There's none of that in it. It's about real life, about humans and aliens that come down and eating cat food.
Social issues. Who was the alien who liked to eat cat food?
All of them.
Alf. Do you remember
Really?
Alf? Yeah, with the big nose. No, he liked to eat cats. That's different.
Like Mr. T. The aliens are called prawns,
Yeah, but they're not pink. They're like grey.
and some are orange and some are green, and they just look like they're dipped in paint. Or okay, they're kind of filthy because they're living in a bad situation because they're in a slum. Now these are awful slums, like in bits of Iraq, managed and policed by a corporation called
MNU. That's my attempt at a South African accent. So they have to kick the aliens out of their slums and into other worse slums, and that's Wickus's job.
While he's emptying one of these shacks, he meets a lovely little alien called Christopher, but they speak in a funny talk. While Vicus is clearing out the house, he gets covered in this goo, and Vicus starts transforming into one of these prawns. As soon as this happens, the whole documentary side of the film is kind of dropped, but it turns into On the Run mixed with a buddy cop movie.
Yeah, they're like, if these two can learn to stand each other, the bad guys don't stand a chance.
Don't Lethal Weapon reference me. I can do it too. At the end of District 9, they all go up into a spaceship and Danny Glover kills the Predator and the Predator's nod at him and everything's cool. And Danny Glover goes home and his house explodes. And he's too old for this shit, killing predators.
Yeah.
This film feels very much like a computer game in the guns that the aliens use. The aliens themselves usually just shoot a whole horde of them. When you're playing a computer game, you don't really feel a thing for those aliens. You're just mowing them down. I remember this one time myself and my brother were playing a game where we were just shooting Nazis. And then it changes to where the Nazis start running away. And I look at my brother and go, what do we do? Do we shoot him? And then we're just getting orders over the speakers and through the other guys going, shoot them, shoot them. And we had to do it. And like Vicus, it was kind of forced on him, but still, he kind of went through with it because he was thinking about the bigger picture, like family and all that.
Yeah, he was thinking about himself, like, because he started worrying about the aliens the minute he started becoming like the aliens, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, Christopher, help me.
Well, that was just about their treatment, but he wanted to be anything but an alien.
Yeah.
That's why he wanted Christopher around, because Christopher promised, hey, I can fix you.
Yeah.
Vicus hits him over the head with a plank and steals his ship. The end.
Awesome.
Apart from what really happened at the end. I can thoroughly recommend this film, except for one bit, which got really annoying, because it was a word he said pretty much every 5 seconds. To us, it'd be a curse word, mainly that ends in uck, but he
says ook.
So I put this to the test. I couldn't believe that this man, he's from South Africa. How could he pronounce that in such an annoying way? Because I have South African friends that might not like me after this episode. I've never heard them saying that. I've only heard they pronounce it differently. It's like uck. I called her up and I tried to make her as angry as possible to see if she'd curse at me.
Did it work?
It worked in a way. I found out what he was actually saying. He was saying fukin, which isn't a curse because it's their word for the word we use, but in Boer language. So technically I'm cursing in a different language, which makes it all okay for media. So go see the film, get over your prejudices towards whoever it is. Kumbaya, all is forgiven. It'll grow in you like they grew in each other, like a good buddy cop movie, and where they fly away in the spaceship in the end.
It's a masterpiece.
Really? If Nick really saw that, he'd go, it was nothing special, because Nick doesn't really like sci-fi or computer games. Remember, you are taking Nick's position here.
It was nothing masterpiece.
Sullivan, it's time to talk about this year's child kidnapping feel-good film of the year.
Up!
by two men we've never heard of, but apparently they've done all the Pixar films. And that's the first thing we have to mention when we talk about the film, is that it's by Pixar. People who can do no wrong.
They're really, really good.
I've never seen Cars.
I haven't seen Cars either.
I don't want to like it because of concept.
Well, what Pixar do is like, they start out with a little idea and then they kind of bring in the spectrum of human emotion, and they really, their attention to detail is amazing.
Human emotion, feelings like...
Yeah, well, feelings like sadness.
Sadness, Sullivan.
And joy.
No, we'll deal with sadness first. This film affected you in a great way. I was in the cinema. There's a bit where someone dies. His wife, she's old, it doesn't matter.
It's in the first 10 minutes.
It's all part of the bloody blah blah blah. First 10 minutes, the wife dies. And to my left I hear it. And I'm going, oh my God, it's not that an emotional thing. It's a cartoon. They know that there's going to be good things happening later. There's no need to feel sad because you're going to feel really good in a few minutes. And the crying continued. And I was going, oh my God, would whoever's with her just tell her, be quiet. This is kind of getting embarrassing for the person and it's interrupting my film viewing. And next thing, I look over to my left and I realise that person is Sullivan.
It was really, really sad.
Explain yourself. It couldn't have been that sad.
Okay, well, first of all, you see like Carl, the little boy, and he's growing up and he makes friends with this girl, Ellie, and then they like have this whole life together and they're really happy. And then they find out she can't have children. That's what set me off initially, because they were very happy, and then there was a sadness. That made me like sniffle. And then it goes on and she's getting older and she's getting weaker and he's like helping her out, and then eventually she passes away, like, and he's really sad and lonely. And
in the first 10 minutes, it's very hard to get attached to them, but you do because it's Pixar and it's wonderful.
Yeah, and it goes from childhood to like death in like the first 10 minutes, which is pretty amazing.
He doesn't speak for the first God knows how long.
No,
he's just like Wally.
He doesn't speak
with stubble.
Yeah.
It's another one of those films where there's an old person and he's lived in this house all his life and there's development going on around him, and he doesn't like this, much like in Batteries Not Included. But instead of depending on aliens to come down from the sky, and did they come down? Yeah, they came down from the sky, and fight off the builders, he decides to strap helium balloons onto his house and floats away.
Yeah, he's a balloon salesman.
Yes. While doing this, the dirty old man, he kidnaps a child. Then they fly off to South America and they meet a googly-eyed bird and a dog who talks in a blimp and a man with a pencil moustache.
Yeah.
And that's the film.
It's really nice to see old people kind of as three-dimensional characters. Like the old guy, he's the hero, and like even though he has a walker and stuff and a bad back and he's not like as strong as he used to be, he kicks ass, like.
And it's also the first time we see an Asian character being played by an Asian, or probably even an Asian character full stop, in a Pixar film.
Yeah, and what I liked is he was a fat kid, but he wasn't always eating. I don't think there was one fat joke about him, like.
So we've accepted it. It's become part of society, like old people.
Yeah.
And talking dogs.
Yeah.
Which is by far and away the greatest achievement of the film. These dogs were so impressive. One of them wrote and directed the film. Mr. Voice Man of him, Bob Peterson. However, for all of Bob Peterson's great achievements in this films and past films, there's one thing that doesn't sit right, and I don't believe it's a problem that Bob is responsible for. It's Disney as a whole. Disney have bought Pixar, and Disney have this policy that for the next few years at least, until the fad is over, most of their films, probably all their films, will have to be in 3D. And this is one film that there's no point of it to be in 3D.
Yeah, it doesn't benefit from it at all. It just looks a little bit more roundy.
If you're going to have 3D, you might as well use 3D like you saw Caroline.
Yeah, it was in eye-popping 3D. It's really, really creepy. I think that 3D really fits the horror genre where you want a scare, like, and something like pops out at you.
Or something that's unintentionally scary.
Before Coraline, there was a trailer for the Jonas Brothers in 3D. And there's a bit where like one of them smiles and he throws his sunglasses towards the audience and they came out and they float over your head.
But there's one worse crime.
What?
And they've committed this crime before, but not in their 3D affiliation. It's in their drawing of the film. And it's the same guys who made the freakish looking Polar Express. What's the new one called?
Oh God, A Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey.
A Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey. Maybe it's meant to be a horror. I'm not quite sure. I remember the Muppets version of it.
That was lovely. And Jim Carrey was nowhere in sight, much less CGI.
I worry for Jim because he's been gone for a while and this film was meant to bring him back. But look what happened to Tom Hanks. before Polar Express, every single one of his films was a hit. He was big bang. He was $20 million man at least. Then Polar Express, not much good after that.
What was the last
Could be
good?
Solving Crimes in the Vatican. What was his last good film?
Yeah,
Catch Me If You Can.
Jim Carrey.
Oh, sorry, Jim Carrey.
I can't think past Eternal Sunshine. And that was years ago.
Here's what you do to make him lovable. Make people look like toys. In Up, all the good people are based on rectangles and circles. Like the old man, Fredrickson. He's all made up of rectangles. And the boy's made up out of round things. And all the villains are made up of like sharp triangles. That's how you do it. Don't make them look like humans. I don't want that.
Make them more lovable. Humans aren't really lovable.
Actually, I've just remembered something. Toy Story, their first attempt. They showed the toys wonderful. They focused on the toys being all these friendly shapes. But the humans, when you saw them, they were kind of a tad bit creepy.
So Up, masterpiece, nothing special, or awful, dreadful, made me want to kill myself.
Nick would usually react to this. He'd call it a kid's film and he mightn't go. And he has a problem with Disney, but I rang him up and I told him all the good things about it. He's going to go.
Oh, yay! And he'll totally think it's a masterpiece because it's really lovable.
That's it for Beyond the Exposition this episode. We have seen child kidnappings in unjustified 3D. Morally, that should be the other way around, but it isn't. And we have seen documented evidence of how South Africa has been mistreating its prawns. And that Alpha's the one who eats cats. For now, I'd like to thank Miss Deirdre Sullivan. Go visit her website, The Gun Street Girls, or buy one of her feminist propaganda books when they're out next year.
Buy them.
You're only thinking about the money, Sullivan.
Bling bling.
You only have to fill in one last duty that Nick normally does. Sing us out.
Really?
Yep.
Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, and eyes and ears and mouth and nose. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes.
I fired Nick for less than that, you know. I will be back for a full-length second episode of the second series shortly. All I have to do is retrieve a certain someone from Asia. In the meantime, take a look around our website, follow us on Twitter, leave some comments, don't steal my friend's iPod, and tell me if you see Nick. Ciao.
Chow mein.
This has been a Major Headache production.
Donegal had Nick killed. I'm really, really frightened. Please help me get out of here. I don't want to be killed and then sent to Asia. Shh, he's back.
See the name.
Like a guinea pig.